Hi, it's Jamie from Trapunto. Today we're going to be talking about Queen of Diamonds. So the Queen of Diamonds is a project that came out a couple years ago. It is designed by Pink Door Fabrics with Tula Pinks, Everglow, and Moon Garden, I believe. Before we get to the fun stuff, I have some bones to pick with this pattern. So this quilt finishes at 60 by 73.5, and the pattern itself calls for 31 yards of fabric. I'm not sure if you can see it there. 31 yards. Now that is just a tad excessive. The kits that I have seen online have something like 21 to 31 yards of fabric as well. And that makes these kits extremely expensive. I have seen kits for sale from $600 to $1,100. And when you break it down, the 600 divided by, say, 22 yards, you're paying about $27 Canadian a yard or $30 a meter for fabric. Most Tula Pink fabric that I have seen is running anywhere from $20 to $22 a meter. So you're paying a significant amount extra per meter of fabric in these kits. I understand part of the cost comes with having somebody cut all the fabric and the packaging that goes into the kits. However, I don't really know why they're charging so much extra for the labor to put into these kits when, we make kits too, and we make sure that there's enough fabric in the kit plus a little bit extra, but not a ridiculous amount extra. The pattern also calls for 2.5 yards of 108 wide backing, which is also way too much. So 2.5 yards is 90 inches. And as I said, this quilt finishes at 60. So if you add the 4 inches all the way around, you need 68 inches. Cutting it at 90 inches is going to leave you with an extra 22 inches on the side. And then you're also already having 27 inches on the top because the quilt is 73.5 plus the 8. So it's leaving you with 27 inches extra. That's a lot of fabric left over. It also calls for 4.5 yards of regular width fabric. So regular width is roughly 44 to 45 inches. I usually measure it at 80 just to make life a little easier when you're doing math. But when I mathed it out, all you really need is 3.5 meters or 3.85 yards for regular width if you're using the backing. So again, you're getting an extra 20 inches. I don't know why they calculate it that way. I can understand a little bit with the excess fabric because there is a lot of fussy cutting in this and things like that. But to say that you need 22 to 31 plus yards, even with fussy cutting, that's kind of, it feels like a way to sell more fabric and perhaps move dead stock along than give the customer what they actually need. And I have mixed feelings about that. So for my Queen of Diamonds, as I mentioned, this quilt was made, you can see it on the back here, with Everglow and Moon Garden. So that's the neon fabric. I am doing this quilt in Greywork, which is the new one that just came out, Linework, and a couple other little bits and bobs. So let me show you my fabric stack. So these are the fabrics I will be using. So I have solid colors and I have a few extra bits like these stripes and things like that. This is roughly 10 meters of fabric that I'm going to be starting with. So that's less than half of what the pattern or these kits have involved. I'm starting with fat quarters for most of the prints, a layer cake, and long quarters. So my goal with not only this video, but then the other ones, as I do plan to do this as a block of the month, is to show you that you can make a quilt like this without having all that extra fabric left over at the end that might make you go, well, what am I supposed to do with all this extra fabric? Some of us like scraps and some of us like building our stash through scraps, and that's fine. I personally haven't been sewing long enough to necessarily have a big scrap pile. I do have scraps left over from a couple projects with Linework, so those might come into play as I build this project. Basically, what I'm going to walk you through in maybe this video too is how I'm designing my blocks. So what I have done is I've taken the paper pieces and traced them onto onto paper, and I'm planning out my blocks. So I might have a degree in design. It's not in drawing though. So this is my block 2-1. This is purples, as you can see. And so why don't we get into how I might design a future block. Okay, so when I am designing a block, I like to use ye old pencil crayons, and I have my pencil, knock my camera, pencil and eraser. And then of course I will have the pattern and my fabric at hand so I can sort of lay it out and see how I feel. So this next block that I will be doing is block number 2-2. And I think this is my paper right here for it. Yeah, so 2-2. So this block, and to make, ooh, those are a little loud. So this block, find something to lay my paper down here. This block is more pink. So on the bottom here, I'm just gonna write pinks, pinks. And it also has 5 different fabrics. So there's a polka dot, a solid, a stripe, and then 2 that are fussy cuts. So I like to label. So this is going to be my fabric choices. And then I'm just going to number the blocks. So these ones will be number 1. And then we have number 1s up here as well. Something under there. Okay, and then let's make this solid number 2. So all the way around, these are 2s. And then since this is the pink, okay, and then number 3 will make my stripe. So all of these diamonds are stripes. And number 4 So they have the fussy cut rainbow from Daydreamer, if that means anything to anybody. And then they have the rainbow sort of like in this way to make little arches. And I don't know if I have anything like that, but first things first, let's decide on the solid. So this is the pink block. So we are going to go with pink for the solid. So fabric number 2 is going to be the solid pink. And I might just color that in now. I think this is the pencil crayon. So this helps me visualize, I guess, my plans for the quilt, obviously. And it just gives a feel. It gives me my own pattern to really work with. And once I get to actually cutting and working on the pattern, I might decide to change things, but I feel like this really gives me a good idea of what each block is going to look like. And as I said, it kind of just gives me a roadmap for what I need to do for each block, what kind of fussy cutting I might be looking at. I also do have the acrylic templates for this project, and I find that to be very helpful when it comes to deciding on what I want in certain places. And my goal with this quilt is to keep it fairly monochrome because Linework is all black and whites and Greywork is all grays. So I want to preserve some color in here because this quilt is sort of in rainbow order, even with the Everglow and the Moon Garden that it shows. So I'm sort of keeping the integrity of those blocks. And also, like when the pattern calls for a stripe, I will be using a stripe. And when it calls for a polka dot in that spot, I'll be using a polka dot. So there is some similarities to the design, but then there's some differences. And I know this might seem extra. Obviously, it's so much easier to just buy the fabric that is in the sample and follow along. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. I don't know. I just like being extra. And since this quilt is sort of in monochrome, like grays and stuff like that, one thing that is really helpful for me anyway is to look at the pattern and see the values. So I will hold my camera up and change it into gray, like grayscale. And then I can get a feel for like the contrast and the tone. So like this stripe that they're calling for is basically like this color with the, I think that's purple stripe on it. So I think what I'm going to do is out of the Greywork, I will use the, yeah, and she doesn't really have a lot of stripes. So this might be where I bring in, let's see. So I have this one. This is just obviously white stripes on black. It might be a little too dark, but I think that'll be fine. So let's do the black on white. And obviously those are a great combination because black and white goes with everything. So number 3 will be, I'm going to call that white on black mini stripes. And this is where some fun things come in. So it's going to be all of these are going to be black. And then I think that's going to play into what I have in number, whatever this one's going to be, number 4. Let's just number these. So number 4 are the triangles. And then in the pattern, the fussy cut is from the same fabric for the hexagon, and then also the triangles at the top and bottom. So these will be my 5s. So let's get to coloring. So you can really see now, and I know it's just pencil crayon and just sort of messy, messy coloring, but it really does help you kind of visualize what things are going to look like. And sure, you can do this on the computer and, you know, have a good time with that, but I like doing it by hand. So, and what I'll do, I'll fill in the rest and then come back. But what I do, so I have black and then I have a white gel pen. So the stripes in these are going this way. And actually what I might do is, let's break out my proper marker here, because it'll be better. There we go. That's black. Okay, so once I have these done, then I will take my gel pen, and I like using a ruler just because why not? And the stripes kind of show up. You get the gist anyway. That's the nice thing about these plans, is they don't have to be super perfect. They really are just for you to reference from. All right, so I'm going to color in all the rest of our black diamonds, and I will meet you back when I'm done with that. Okay, so that's that block, those blocks. Now, let's do the polka dots. And since we are pretty high contrast already with these two, I kind of want to see, and the pattern calls for like a lighter gray, or well, a lighter pink polka dot. So, I'm thinking this one, because I think that kind of matches the value. And that looks pretty good in our trio here. So, do I have my lighter gray? So number 1 is going to be the lightest gray, tiny dot. And same with the shapes, just color it in. And then what I plan to do for the fussy cutting part is I really want to bring out this pink. And I think since we have so much black already, it's going to be from Linework, and also to bring something in that's more gray, just because at the moment this is looking a little weird. And you really want to have something that just kind of balances things out. All right, and then I'll go in with my black pen again and draw some haphazard polka dots. So this pattern also does come with like a coloring sheet. So you could use that if you wanted, instead of, you know, tracing everything out like I've done here. I just found it a little easier, and plus like this is real scale to what the blocks are going to look like size wise. And that's why the templates are helpful too, or you can make your own, as I've shown in other videos, that will give you an idea for scale and what's going to fit in these blocks that you have here. Because there's nothing like wanting to put something in a certain fussy cut spot and then it doesn't fit, or when you're looking at fabric online that's a pre-order, something like that. At least for me, I find it difficult to, I guess, understand the scale of it. So I was hoping to do certain things with, like, say, the big wolves. But then when I saw the wolves for real, like, the scale is just something that I wasn't really expecting. So let's get the template for the hexagon out here. And we'll do the same for the little diamond and the big diamond. So, nope, not that hexagon. Stop. Okay, here's the little diamond. Here is the big diamond. And then the little hexagon. And like I said, I want to use Greywork. And if I could have something that replicates the arch of the rainbow, that would be cool. I don't have to have that though. I'm just pulling the prints, and I want something more of the medium gray rather than dark, just because we already have all that black. So let's see, we have seals. We do have the cats, but I really want them to shine in a larger block if possible. And then I have the puffins. So let me move all these things out of here. So as I said, I really want the pink to shine. So if I were to use the puffins here, I would probably cut in here because it has the purple and the pinkies. So what can we do here? We could do that in the middle. That's kind of cute. How is this? Okay, like this. It's just then we only get 2 dots of the color, but it would tie in with the black and stripes nicely because these do have black in there. So that's not bad. And then I guess the question would be, what do we want in the larger diamonds and then in the smaller ones? So in the larger diamonds, it's just like another cut from this print. So I don't really want to get any of the orange. So if we do like that, we could get a cut maybe up here. And then it's just sort of wing and leaf, like scroll leaf. I mean, that's not bad. Or again, I don't want the gray, like this color in here, the yellows. So that's not really gonna work. Let's open this up and see here. So it looks like just with how this has been dyed, it's like, yeah, the color doesn't really oscillate. So there's not really, I guess down here, but then what are you really getting in your diamond then? I mean, that's not the worst. That could be kind of interesting. And then can we still cut that from the same row? We can, yeah. So what I mean by cutting from the same row is that if I can get a puffin and then I can just move it over to get here because I want this row with these colors in here. So that'll work, I think. All right, let's put our puffins in there. You are gonna be blown away by my drawing skills right now. Okay, get my grays. See, we're gonna do 2 Boyds, 2 birds. So one beak is gonna be kind of like that, and then the other beak is gonna be like this, like that, and then we get their little head and kind of come down, and then the wing is like that. And then the chest is sort of here, like this. And this guy's head, that wing. And then, yeah, puffin eyeball. And like their distinctive little, yeah. Again, this is just for you. It doesn't have to be a Picasso here. Okay. So these guys are going to be mostly black. And there's black here on their little heads and their little beaks. Sure, those look like puffins. Why not? Why not? And then there is this whole like floral situation coming up this way and down in here. And then there's like another like leaf thing that comes up here. Honestly, you really don't have to draw all these details. I just like to, again, for a little bit more frame of reference and just to, I don't know, fill in the space a little bit. Okay, and then there's more scrolly bits and things up here, but then we have there's a few dots here with the color that we want. Where's purple? There we go. Wow, beauty. And then for the triangle, we were going to do, I think it was this, like that. So then for this one, we have like it's going to be the two dots kind of up here. And there's dots down here. Get my other color. Dots down here. And then a big sort of swoop-de-doop of scroll. Now these ones I will not, like I'll still fussy cut them, but I'm not going to do the whole thing where I'm going to, well, I most likely won't do the thing where I tape and then cut and then match exactly. I most likely won't do that just because they are quite a fair amount away from the other, like from each other. So I'm not really going for like super precise or anything like that. And I'm just going to color it in because it is sort of a gray-y background. And then on this one, we're going to have the same thing. We get two dots, and then a gray swoop down here. And then it's sort of a gray background. I think that'll look quite nice, if I do say so myself. Now, the last thing that is left is these little diamonds. Or not diamonds, triangles. And before I forget, where did my pencil go? So fabric 5 is the, we're just going to call that puffin scroll. And puffin pear. Because it's from the same fabric, so we have the pear in here. Now, what do we want to do for this? Ooh. Okay, so the pattern originally calls for the rainbow arches. However, why don't we fussy cut some polka dots? Ooh. So instead of having the so the rainbow arch goes here, why don't we fussy cut some pink and purple polka dots? Oh yeah. Because then we still get that shape. Now, do I want to do it with the lighter one or the darker one? I'm leaning toward lighter just because we already have all that black. And I fear that if we add more, it's just going to be a very dark middle. So let's do it on lighter, and that'll also tie in with our polka dots, which is nice. Oh. This is why I like designing, because you get these little brain waves. Oh yeah, that'll be cool. And so since this is the pinky purpley block and we'll have a little bit in here, I think I'm going to cut from these 3 rows. And there are 6, so we can do 2 of each. Where are my pencil crayons? I think these are the colors. So we could do like pink here, pink, pink, pink. And then purple, purple, or whatever color this is. What do they call this on Crayola? Red violet, which is sort of like this color that I have the template on. And then purple. I mean, I could do all pinks, but you get it live a little. Do I want to add purple in here? Yeah, because we'll have a tiny bit with the puffins, so. And then the light gray. This is an actual pale gray pencil. It doesn't really show up a whole lot, but it's there. Okay, and then, so fabric 4 is going to be light polka dot. All right, and there we have it. This is my block 2-2 designed and ready to be added to my pile of finished ones. So if you want to see more, let me grab them for you. So this is 2.2-2. I think I showed 2-1 earlier. This is 2-1. So this is sort of more pinks, purples. So these are panda bears that I'm using from Linework. And then there's some fairy dust and other things in here. Sorry, all this paper noise is crazy. And then I have block 1-2. So this is going to be more blues, teals, a little bit of periwinkle. And then 1-1, which is going to be sort of yellows or teals and blues with a little bit of like greeny yellow in there. So that is how I design a block for my upcoming Queen of Diamonds block of the month. If you would like to join me, please feel free. I will also be doing videos on how I'm fussy cutting when I'm actually fussy cutting my fabric, glue basting, and probably what threads I pick. I'm most likely going to be stitching with black, gray, white, and maybe a little bit of color. So that is everything for me this video. Join me next time for more Queen of Diamonds in this series. Bye.